Hey guys, it's me again. I guess it's one of those afternoons where thoroughly motivated. I've had a lot of thoughts that touch on current events, friends, family, the world as a whole. Growing up, my parents, just to give you a bit of context here, my parents always pushed us to be thoughtful, educated, smart individuals, well read, well studied. We were always the top of our class, and I say this not to brag, but more so to give a little bit of context to what I'm going to say. I've been actually doing a lot of study lately on current events, things that are happening. And no, this is not a video where I profess my allegiance to Q or anything like that, but rather I hope to share a little bit of what I've learned in life with you. And it's probably going to be a long video, so feel free to peace out if you're not interested, or you can take a look. I'm going to talk a little bit about truth, the very nature of truth, because it seems as though we've lost the ability, I suppose, in a broad sense, to be rational thinkers. So growing up, while education was something that was pushed, there was also this tension between being well-read, well-studied, being rational, thoughtful, and surrendering all of that to an organization, in my case, a religion, that told me how I should think. It's okay to think critically as long as it's within the bounds we set, okay? Think of it that way. So I look at the world today, and we are so divided. We're so split. I've lost friends in all of this, where people have taken a single word, and ranted about, in effect, starting a fire, intentionally trying to burn their own house down on my social media, and then accusing me of not supporting them in putting that fire out, right? Things like that. And I know that's vague, but let's get back to truth. So I actually teach a course online. It's pretty fun, and it's given me a chance to be a bit more thoughtful, discursive, and have some debate about truth as an idea, for example. That was actually one of the first lessons. And this is gonna probably sound like a ramble, but stick with me here. Okay, stick with me here. I think there's a problem. There's a gap. Fundamentally, we all live in our own worlds. We exist in our own bubbles. We exist in our own spheres, our own realities. And it is human nature. This is not speculative. This is not me imposing some narrative on you. As humans, we are prone to craft narratives that help us make sense of the world. We are engines, meat machines of logic, okay, and deduction. This is true. We see something, A plus B equals C. Let me close this door. We are meat machines that are driven to create schema to help us make sense. I'll move this Clorox thing. To help us make sense of the world. And it's been interesting to me to see how much dialogue has been shut down in the interest of preserving whatever schema or framework we have. I believe it was Plato, might have been Socrates, but there's a quote: "The one thing I know is I know nothing at all." And I shared that with one of my parents once, and they scoffed at it and said I was being smug, but really, I don't know everything. And it's been interesting to see how entrenched we've become in the narratives we've crafted. Oh, 5G towers means that our immune systems are suppressed and we're exposed to radiation, and that must be why COVID's a thing. Or this is some grand conspiracy, some elaborate conspiracy to facilitate the extraction of small humans from the population, to extract certain chemicals to preserve the life and longevity of people that are in power. Maybe But that sounds so far-fetched. Like, I'm one to hold on to, or rather lean into Occam's razor, because many experiences in my life, and granted this is a subjective truth of mine, but many experiences in life come down to very simple things. Now, in this class I teach, and in my research, I've kind of narrowed it down to two paths we can take when it comes to facts and truth and how we see the world. I've had conversations even this week where people have, in defiance of the Thanksgiving orders, been cavalier and just been like, screw it, we're gonna do whatever we want. Cool, that is objectively within your right, but let's talk about what's happening. So as far as the nature of truth goes, there's two ways to think about it. You have objective truth, things that are measurable, repeatable, observable. Granted, if you want to go as far back, if we want to level up to the nature of reality, we can go there, but let's assume all of this is real and not a simulation, okay? Objectively speaking, there are truths that are observable and repeatable. When someone says something and uses words repeatedly that are commonly understood, why is it that we say, oh, they didn't mean it that way? When I look at the President of the United States say things and people rush to his defense, I go, well, he didn't mean it that way. It meant something else. That is you layering what is called a subjective truth, whatever narrative you've come up with, on the objective words that this person has said repeatedly. Okay, cool. Have they explained that away? No. Why are you doing the work for this person? So back to what I was saying. Two truths, objective, subjective. Okay. Can you measure it? Can you observe it? Can this be shared? Can this knowledge be shared and imparted to another person in a way that they can assimilate and understand what is actually happening? This is so important and fundamental to, I think, our understanding of the world. And it saddens me that we are willing to put aside this objectivity or this approach to a pragmatic, I would say, objective understanding of nature and what we're experiencing. The other part of that is a narrative or subjective truth. I feel, usually you can tell when someone is expressing a narrative truth when they say something along the lines of, I feel, I think, I believe. Okay, there's no way for me to quantify those things. And granted, I have my own subjective truths. I don't live in a uniquely objective world where there is no emotion, there's no passion, there is no anything beyond what I can observe. But I do try to, where possible, stay open to inviting some objectivity into my experiences in my life. So objective truth is one thing. Subjective truth is, what do I believe and why do I believe it? Now, if the foundation of what you believe is pure subjectivity, it holds no water in my regard. That's my contention. That's my struggle with much of what I'm seeing. I see people saying, oh, I feel this, I feel that. Now, yes, science is messy. Deduction is messy. Figuring out the world is messy. As humans, when we know better, we aspire to do better and be better, okay? We're all beneficiaries of science and logic and technology. But these things they're not binary, okay? There's gray in between. That being said, we attempt, at least in a scientific sense, to create a higher degree of fidelity and certainty with which we can definitively say things over time. Okay, so I'll give you an example. In the response to the pandemic, Dr. Fauci was quoted as saying, masks aren't important. Cool. And I've seen deniers, or rather those who would wish to flaunt their defiance of public orders in the open, as quoting him and saying, well, see, Dr. Fauci said this. Dr. Fauci said masks aren't important. I'm like, okay, cool. At the time, context is important. At the time, this is the best we knew. Now that we know more, here's the recommendation. And it's been just I can't think of the right word. Perhaps it's sad, perhaps it's unfortunate, perhaps it's disappointing, but people hold so firmly to that one phrase he said, and I wish he didn't say it, but that's how science is. You know a little bit, you discover some more, maybe you make a change. I wish people didn't hold on to that. So in this world in which we live, where it seems as though people are holding on to their opinions and asserting them as facts that we all need to accept, I just had to say something. The truth is, the objective truth here is we all live in our subjective realities. My presentation to you is a subjective reality, but is one in which I try to ground what I'm saying in a high degree of objectivity. Objectivity matters. Can you measure it? Is it repeatable? Okay. In those instances, yes, you can share those things, those facts with people. I had a conversation with someone this week, a light conversation. Someone that was, and I don't know, maybe they'll comment on this video and be offended, I don't know. But it's a conversation that I had around Thanksgiving where I responded to something that to me indicated them being cavalier about the Thanksgiving orders. Cool. You want to have Thanksgiving? Cool. That's on you. But let's not ignore the actual science. One, we know that this disease does or is communicable in the absence of symptoms. Okay, there's asymptomatic transition. That means that if you're not coughing, if you're not sneezing, if you're not feeling something, you can still transmit this disease. Cool. Some people say, okay, objectively speaking, there's a 99% survival rate. Cool. That's awesome. Yes, you will live. What about quality of life? Is that something you've considered? Are you okay risking? Maybe you are, because there is some merit to, if I'm being objective here, there's some merit to taking risk in life, right? And not missing out on opportunities. But are you okay risking having respiratory problems for the rest of your life, or cognitive problems the rest of your life, or other problems? There have been studies, and this is very, very new, that show that teeth will just fall out if you've had COVID. Okay, cool. So that's coronavirus. Well, what about religion? Many of you know I've left the Mormon faith, and I have my own reasons for that. Maybe I'll make a video. But it really just boils down to the idea of objectivity and subjectivity, and what I observed to be things that didn't quite align with who I perceived my best self to be. And I want to be my best self. I've always wanted to be my best self. I attribute that to my parents. I've always been driven to excel, to exceed what I conceive or perceive even to be possible. Push myself. And maybe this will relate to you, maybe not. I live in Utah. And it's been interesting observing this tension between the desire to impart on others your own belief. Whether it's the belief that, yes, this majority faith in my locale is real and worth merit, or the tension between the assertion that it's not real and that a life outside of it is what is ideal. I think perhaps there is something in the middle to be said, or worth merit, in that it's worth considering. Are we able to think for ourselves? Are we able to come to a place of understanding? I personally prefer to approach things with pragmatism and with some degree of logic. Now, the faithful would say, well, what about faith? What about essentially taking a risk on something that is unproven? That's an interesting one. It's one that's hard for me to dispute or even argue with, and frankly isn't even worth arguing. If you find value in something that doesn't cause harm to other people and that benefits you personally, I'm all for it, man. Go for it. But what I find sad is that oftentimes those within those structures and benefiting from those structures are blinded and myopic to what's beyond what they've been told and encouraged to think or believe or hold on to. That makes me sad. All right. Now, I know this video is long and I could probably talk about this for 3 hours. Like I said, I'm teaching a college course. It's specifically about design, but we touch on ideas of truth. We touch on ideas of discussion on how can we build bridges with other people? How do we create a foundation for discourse and dialogue in the world? And I am forever grateful to my parents, frankly, for stressing and encouraging a love and appreciation and drive to be educated, to be thoughtful. I didn't come up with this phrase, but education is elevation, quite literally. Okay? Are the people, institutions, groups, whatever you're involved with, are they discouraging you from reading? Are they discouraging you from questioning, from asking, from coming to your own conclusions about your own freaking life? Life is short. Okay? Take the opportunity to learn something, to read, to do something. I know a lot of people think, well, I shouldn't say I know. I believe a lot of people, this is my perception. A lot of people think, oh, Spencer, you're just a Negro that draws. You do what you do and you do it well. Keep doing that, man. Stay in your lane. No. I'm done staying in my lane. I've been in my lane for long enough. And I haven't shared my thoughts with people because I've been hesitant. On the religion front, I recently saw some videos from an organization that is invested in defending the faith of which I was a part. And it saddened me. It saddened me to see that people, again, were willing to not question, to not think, and mock and make a parody of those who I perceive to be conscious thinkers. Now, I understand. It's worth the investment in parodying those you find outside what you would consider to be acceptable views, right? In other words, it's easier for me. I definitely lean left. For example, if I pivot to politics here, I definitely lean left. It's easy for me to mock people who support Donald J. Trump. Especially those who are religious, because to me it seems hypocritical for them to do so. Cool. In the context of my faith and how I grew up as a Mormon, I can understand those who are in it, who are willing to belittle and mock those who have been willing to risk. And when I say risk, I mean really risk their friendships, their family, their livelihood, and their sense of self to think for themselves. I've lost friends. I've lost business. Okay? I've separated from family members that, and this is my own choice, granted, but also I think conditionally and perceptually have been separated from people because I've said, you know what? No, I don't believe this anymore. I'm not going to buy into the idea that I am lesser than because of my skin color. And you may say, if you're active Mormon and you're watching this, that no, that's not true. It was taught for generations. It was taught for a long, long time. But I don't want to go off on that tangent. Let's bring it back to truth. So, truth. You can slice truth a lot of ways. But I hope if anything you get from this video is that it is worth consideration and your consideration to ask yourself, am I thinking critically? When I feel what I feel, objectively speaking, what is happening here? What are the facts? What are the observable and repeatable things that I can use to ground myself so that we can build bridges? Because I don't want to create a bigger wedge with people. Okay, I'm not saying I'm smarter than you or anyone else. Like I said, that quote from Plato or Socrates, I don't remember who, and I'm paraphrasing. But the one thing I know is I know nothing, and I am open, and I'm willing to discuss, so long as that discussion is grounded in some objectivity. If you can objectively say and state why it is what you believe, cool. Faith is magic. I don't believe in magic, okay? I'm not gonna do that. Life is too short for me to mortgage my existence on that hope. That is what I've decided. That is my subjective truth. Take it for what you will. I've lost people this year. It's been a rough year. But the one thing I know is I know nothing at all. Okay, so those are just my thoughts on truth. I know it's been a while since I've shared a video, but hopefully if you've taken time to watch this, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you. If you want to continue this discussion, you can Marco Polo me. We can have a discussion on the phone, or just hit me up in messages, comments, whatever. I'll make time and space, because I think we are in a place, I wasn't educated in the United States even, but we're in a place where I think critical thinking is supremely lacking. And it's disappointing. It's fucking disappointing. So that's where I'm at. All right. Peace and love to you. Take care.